Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today's entertainment is provided by Interstellar Kraken, who, for a change, is not in a carrier, but is in the Yu-Yang, the Tier 10 Pan-Asian destroyer, and honestly, probably the Tier 10 destroyer I really want the most. So, he's teamed up in a Tier 10 battle, obviously, with Chubbyremoval in the Venezia. And on the enemy team, there's a triple Monty, Minor, Worcester, Shima, and Kiev. So there are 3 cruisers on the enemy team. You mean 3 cruisers? Well, the Kiev is the Tier 9 Russian light cruiser, isn't she? So it's a Minor, which is bad news. It's a Worcester, which is even worse news. And it's a Kiev, which isn't great either. And Montys don't burn that well. But, well, we'll see what they get up to. They are playing on fault line. So the first calls are made to go and play defensive, which is okay. It's a fair call to make. This is a map where you can very easily get lost and between the islands and have the enemy team rush through to your cap, stuff like that. So having a Venezia behind you means that any enemy destroyers, well, there aren't any, well, there's a Shima, but the rest is all cruisers, coming close is, well, bad news for them. So Kraken here goes and goes scouting and just kind of sits next to that island. I mean, Yu-Yang has two radars, so if he and I don't think he's going to get outspotted, maybe from the Shima, but no one can hide from him. Okay, there's one of the battleships spotted, so it's kind of sneaking forward towards that one, and then brown alert. There's the Kiev. So he pops the smoke, instantly switches over to the armor piercing. And, well, it looks like the Kiev has different problems, because he has decided that he wants to get into a fight with the Venezia, which isn't going to end very well for the Kiev. So I think the Kiev has seen the error of his ways and is hightailing it out of there. So Kraken drops 2 torpedoes on where that Monty was just spotted, and then kind of keeps gently firing at the Kiev. Now, the Yu-Yang, I think, is a Fletcher, or at least somewhat close to Fletcher class, so it's definitely an American destroyer, which means the guns aren't completely terrible. And at this distance, I would probably be firing high explosive, especially at a cruiser, but it still works. It still works. So that Kiev hopefully is rather dead. And Chubbyremoval complains somewhat loudly about probably Kraken's dislike for the idea of defending the base. But I know, to be honest, what are you going to do playing a Yu-Yang defensively? You can't. What you do is you shout very loud and you set people on fire, like that Montana over there, who damage controls a single fire because he's in a Montana, and he certainly does not have the best fire and flooding resistance in the game. Unfortunately, he's also behind an island, but there's another Montana, so there's no shortage of Montanas around here. And Kraken has smelled blood, and of course the Montana is firing armor piercing. Now, fair enough, he might have just had this in the barrels because he wasn't really expecting a destroyer coming around here, because Kraken hasn't been spotted for the last minute flutter. So, and there come some shots in, which is probably the Minor. Yes, there's some Minor shots, but at this range the Minor is going to have a hard time. So he smokes up just to defend against the Monty. And here the original video has a bit of a lag, but yeah, Monty runs into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the torpedoes and has a flood, which he damage conned, obviously. So while the armor piercing is going to do more damage, I would have gone with a high explosive and tried to set a permafire. But maybe he was trying to go for the kill here. Anyway, he's nearly at the enemy cap, and Chubbyremoval is in the Venezia way too exposed. Trying to support his teammate here, but he's not backing off. And at this point, the Montana really has no excuse for firing armor piercing at destroyers anymore. But he's now on a permafire, so he's probably very dead. And that would actually be the first kill. What happened to that Kiev back there? Oh yeah, there he is. Okay, first strike, and there's the other Monty that we've set on fire earlier. Now, he's not paying attention, obviously, as you can see. He's totally not looking, but there's a Worcester and a different Monty over there. So what he does is he drops the torpedoes, not at that Montana, because he didn't have the right angles to actually even hit him. And but he does need to bail, because there's a Worcester over there. And by the looks of it, the Worcester is firing high explosives at him, whereas the battleships are still insistent on firing armor-piercing at destroyers. Now there come the torpedoes, and it looks like the Worcester might be taking 1, 2, and another 2, 3 hits over there at the Monty. Anyway, decent number of hits, so sets the Monty on fire. Monty is still firing armor-piercing, Worcester is still firing high explosive. And the other Monty has managed to get his guns turned around and is also insisting on firing the armor-piercing. So Kraken sees no reason to stop firing his guns because nobody is able to hit him. Because the Worcester has problems with the gun arcs and hitting someone who's actually actively dodging the shells. And well, the Montanas are still firing armor-piercing, so that's all not really a huge amount of problems. And the torpedoes are almost off reload. So he is firing them way ahead because that other Montana was starting to move. And he doesn't have to keep his distance to the Worcester, just, you know, if that thing gets close to you. The Worcester radars him because, well, it's not that he's smoking, it's not that he could smoke, and then he damage cons a single fire because he certainly isn't in the ship that has one of the best fire and flooding resistances in the game. And these torpedoes are looking decent. So yeah, there's no reason to radar this ship if it's not in the smoke. And Chubbyremoval seems to have been removed himself from the game and has shown his displeasure about that fact. But the Worcester is still firing high explosive and can't seem to be hitting a barn from the inside of it. But Kraken has run out of map, so he did have to do a turnaround, and he does lose some health doing this. And there comes some of the armor piercing from the battleships in. But his repair is almost off cooldown, so there we go, a little bit more health. And you can keep bullying the enemy team a little bit more from over here. There's some more armor-piercing shots coming in, although at that distance they might actually penetrate. Well, they would have to hit if they were to penetrate. But yeah, he's trying to set the Worcester on fire again. And he's got some more torpedoes ready, but he is getting uncomfortably close to the Worcester. And the Worcester seems to have learned that firing high explosive at battleships, at destroyers, is not the greatest choice he's going to make. So now he can't turn, because then he would give broadside to the Worcester, so he puts the Yu Yang in reverse. Sets over to the armor piercing just to do some additional damage to the Worcester. Again, I was probably going to have stuck with the high explosive, but yeah, the Worcester is going to figure out eventually that he's going actually in reverse and get some of these shots on target. I mean, he's at 4 kilometer range, and that Montana still eats 3 more torpedoes. Because having a destroyer blazing away at guns is obviously no indication that there are torpedoes in the water. And then 5 seconds in to before the end, the Worcester actually takes him out. But they were not going to get the Ruffle Stomp medal anyway, because Chubbyremoval's Venezia died a little bit earlier than that. But that is a very deserved MVP, even though he has completely not done what his teammate was been asking for, or what his team was checking. But he was just going around and yeah, pretty much bullying the enemy team. But if you see how the rest of their team have done, I think that was probably the right decision. And Chubbyremoval in the Venezia still comes in at a good second. So well carried. Both of them have died in the process, but they have gone down in glory, I would say. So yeah, that was Interstellar Kraken. Very much not airborne at this point, but in the Yu Yang, the tier 10 Pan-Asian destroyer that I would very much like to have myself. Thanks for sending that one in. And that was enjoyable. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye.